Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wait 15 years just to buy a car or to drive a vehicle that was essentially unchanged for 3 decades? Well, welcome to the fascinating world of Soviet automotive engineering, where politics, practicality, and pure determination collided to create some of the most unique vehicles ever made. These weren't just cars. They were representative of a whole ideology, rolling testaments to one that placed collective one above individual whim. Now, we're counting down the top 10 Soviet communist cars. And believe me, some of these will totally blow your mind. Music from high-end limousines reserved for party apparatchiks to small city cars that became cultural icons. We're in for a wild ride through car history. So, fasten your seatbelts, like this video if you're up for the ride, and let's journey through a world where car ownership was a luxury, not a universal right. Number 10. Moskvich 412. The Moskvich 412 may not seem impressive these days, but in 1967, this blocky sedan was the epitome of Soviet middle-class desire. Consider it the Soviet Union's response to the Ford Cortina, but one that carried a waiting list that might take years. The 412 was really a piece of clever engineering in its day. It was based heavily on the Opel Kadett design, which the Soviets received as war reparations, but they made it uniquely their own. The vehicle had a 1.5L engine that yielded around 75 horsepower. Not so exciting, but keep in mind this never was about speed. It was about dependability in harsh environments. What gave the 412 an edge was its unexpected long life. These vehicles were constructed like tanks with heavy steel bodies that endured the harsh Russian winters and the equally harsh Russian roads. They were driven by owners for 20 or 30 years, handed down through generations like valuable family relics. The inside was Spartan by Western standards. No air conditioning, no power windows, no high-valued electronics, just an overworked heater, a radio if you were one of the lucky ones, and seats that seemed to be filled with concrete. But here's the catch. It all functioned, and it continued to function. The 412 became a symbol of Soviet success for everyday citizens. Having one meant you'd reached a certain status in society. You weren't high party, but you weren't struggling either. It was the car of engineers, teachers, and mid-ranking bureaucrats. The numbers that came off the production lines are interesting too. They produced almost 500,000 between 1967 and 1976. That may not be a lot compared to Western production, but within the Soviet system, where there was limited private car ownership, it was huge. Most of these cars lived on well into the 90s and longer. You can see them on roads in Russia today, typically belching smoke, but mysteriously still moving. That's Soviet engineering for you. Not attractive, not speedy, but utterly unbreakable. Number 9. UAZ 452. While the Moskvich was the Soviet suburban ideal, the UAZ 452 was its country cousin. This driver off-roader off the assembly line for the first time in 1965, and it resembled a Jeep sketched out by memory with nothing more than a ruler. But looks were misleading. This box-like beast could go anywhere. The 452 was originally a military vehicle, and it bore that pedigree. It was all about function over form. The body panels were flat, so they could be repaired easily. The engine was uncomplicated enough that a farmer could repair it using simple tools. The suspension was built to withstand everything from Siberian permafrost to the deserts of Central Asia. What amazing is how little changed during its production life. The fundamental design was almost the same for more than 50 years. Why fix something that ain't broke? Well, perfect is a bit of a strong term. The 452 was infamous for being noisy, thirsty, and uncomfortable. Riding in one was akin to being inside a metal drum on a hailstorm. But comfort was not the issue. This was a car meant to take Soviet citizens to areas where roads were more suggestion than reality. Collective farms adored them. Geologists used them by the score. Even a medical service employed them as ambulances in far-flung locations. The 452 garnered a cult following that goes well beyond the old Soviet Union. Adventure tourists deliberately look for them because they're essentially unbreakable. There's an adage about UAZ